All right, welcome Cyber Insecurity and everybody who's joining us this evening. My name is Joel Bork. I am your Cutting Into Cybersecurity live stream host this evening. Joining me is my awesome co-host, Brandon Krieger from Usato. Brandon, how are you doing this evening?
Not bad, not bad. It's awesome. Busy week. What about yourself?
Oh, it's been insane. Yeah, it was cool. We had a leadership training, and then you have to get all your job and work, daily work done at the same time. So it's been absolutely nuts, but I love it. I love it.
It's awesome. How'd the leadership go?
Not as anybody expected. Every company's got problems. We dug into the problems. We had to dig ourselves back out, and it always, we're an honest bunch of folks, so it took us down the rabbit hole for a bit, but it was a great session. So really, really recommend it. Jay Taylor, the Inspire session, good stuff. Now, Brandon, we already got a question from Frazier. Did you get a haircut?
Yeah, I did actually.
There you go. I think you
said
I
actually shaved. I shaved and got the top. And now, one thing I've been doing through the pandemic, which because we're in Toronto, we're locked down. I actually shave and fade my sides and my back. But I have to get like a mirror, right? And I'm sitting there with like two mirrors and trying to figure it out. And yeah, so today I was actually got to go to a barber, so it was good to actually finally once and for all get my hair cut.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking good, my friend. I just want to say hey to everybody watching. We got a bunch of people already joining. Sean, BSEC, Cybeard, the whole crew's already jumping on. We got Ozzy in here. Welcome back to the Cyber Incision live stream, guys. So today's going to be an interesting session because if you guys watched last week's episode, we got super distracted. So we still have a ton of content from last week that we got to deliver. And I promised Vivek and Sean that I would jump in to all of the CISSP content that you most likely missed while studying for the exam.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to cover that. Now, I have a question for everyone in the community, and I know this phrase is going to be like, oh my God, right? Are you enjoying this content from, if you came here on Tuesday and you're coming on today, right? Are you enjoying study groups, trying to get that going, need that help? Let us know. I know Fraser is going to get probably a poll going for that. And whenever you post that out, let us know, what you guys think of the study groups, because we want to give you guys the most amount of value. Now, I have a question for you, Joel. What's the best way for you to study? Like, you're going for the CISSP, you got prepared, you did it, and you actually wrote it. Yep. Just recently. What's the best way for you to study?
So let me tell you exactly what I did, because I believe I even believe this in work. Like, if you can replicate what somebody did to reach success, chances are you can do it too. So yes, 2 weeks ago, I literally had it was a Thursday. I looked at the schedule. I said, okay, I either book it. I was actually a week out on Saturday. I'm like, perfect, let me book it. The wife walked in. I talked to her. By the time I went to check out on that thing, somebody else had already taken the spot for me to sit that exam a week from the day I was trying to book it. The only other available time slot was 4 days later on Monday, or 2 months out. So I booked it on Monday. I had 4 days to study. What did I do? Well, I jumped in. I had this application on my phone. It is called the CISSP, and I may have deleted it by now, but CISSP Prep. It's a Shield. It's a free web app with some ads in it, which are annoying, but I went through every single module and I completed them all 100%. Then what I did is I went, and I'll get you guys the link for this, but I went to all of the cheat sheets. So there's cheat sheets out online, which basically is just a jam pack of all the content for each of the domains. I printed them out and I went through and I quizzed myself on everything, making sure I knew all the content. I crunched in the book a little, and then I sat for the exam and passed it. So hopefully that helps. Is that what you're looking for, Brandon?
Well, I mean, let's put some context to this. You didn't just do that. You didn't kind of do a brain dump. You've actually been studying through the sessions of what we've been doing as well.
100%. So it's been about 3 months of studying. So if you're looking to take your CISSP, guys, here's what I recommend you do. Book it 3 months. Get on there, ISC squared, book your CISSP. We got about 2 to 3 months left of training. And then if there's somebody who is still looking or is waiting a few days or weeks to get their CISSP, we're going to be doing recap courses for all the stuff we've covered over 4 to 6 months. And we're going to be jam-packing it into a couple sessions so you guys know exactly what you need to know to pass your CISSP. Vivek actually sitting his on March 27th, so he's going to miss those sessions. But I'm doing a session one-on-one with him after this to really quiz him on his stuff.
Actually, no, we're gonna get a couple polls going today because I actually want to get some information from the guys that are here just to see where they stand to it. I think one of the polls I want to know is who's taking it, who's taking it, and who's
Yep.
actually who has it.
Or ask, one of those questions, Fraser. If somebody's going for a different certification, I want to know which one, if you can do that. While you type up those polls, do you want me to get started on the content, Brandon?
Well, we're gonna just get started on the questionnaires, and you know what? One thing I want to get to get going is I want to thank Fraser. He's actually in the group right now. He's gonna be one kind of running the moderating. Any questions, anything you guys need, make sure you ask Fraser. He's gonna be the one kind of helping us out here. Also, thanks Neil for the cyber insecurity network that we're working on right now. It's awesome to kind of collaborate with you guys in the community. So just want to throw that out there. And if you guys, after this stream, Fraser will post this out as well. If you want to connect with the community after, we're going to have the Discord link so you can jump into the Discord and talk to all the people after this and have that collaboration.
Hey, so Brandon, I'm trying to share these questions and it's giving me a little trouble. So we may have to save the gift card because, guys, typically we do a $25 gift card on the questions. We may have to save that for next.
Yeah, it just seems like Joel just dropped from his internet connection. So again, just to let you guys know, what we normally do, like Joel was saying, was we normally have like a $25 gift card that we do for all the questions that we throw out, and we generally pick one question that we'll throw, and then Fraser will be watching to see who's the one that's going to win, right, and who gets the answer the quickest out of that. So that's kind of how we run. And then here's Joel jumping back in.
There it is. I don't know why it wasn't letting me share the content, but it kind of dropped me out and popped back in and it works. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions. Deal, Brandon?
Yeah, and everyone's ready. They're prepped. We're going to pick one question. They're going to know fastest one to the draw to answer that. It's going to win the gift card. All right. It's Amazon and what was the other one?
Buffalo Wild Wings, because I love Buffalo Wild Wings. So
there we go.
All right, cool. So question 160, guys, throw your answers in the chat. This is not the one for the gift card. We'll let you know when that time comes. There's a $25 gift card on the line to the first one who gets the right answer, but not on this one. So question 160, where in PKI infrastructure is a list of revoked certificates stored? A, in the CRL, B, in the registration authority, C, recovery agent, or D, key escrow? Brandon?
Well, I mean, most people, hopefully you guys know this. If you're new, you're going to look at that. So is it the registry authority? No, because that's the one that is looking after the whole kind of PKI solution. It's not where it's stored. Is the recovery agent? No, you're recovering from there, right? Is the key escrow? That's the one who's control of holding it, right? So when you're looking at who's there for revoking, I'm going to say A, right? CRL.
Boom, 100%. Remember, guys, these acronyms, it has the letter in there, right? So CRL stands for your certificate revocation list, CRL. So if you can remember that, look for those letters. And if you're really stuck in between two, look for the right letters that could be in the acronym. So hopefully that helps. Great job, Brandon. All right, question 161. This one was an interesting one, but I actually remembered it from all the studying I'd done when I looked at these for the first time. So the equation used to calculate the total number of symmetric keys needed for a group of users to communicate securely with each other is given by which of the following? Kn minus 1 divided by 2, Nk minus 1 divided by 2, Kn plus 1 divided by 2, or N times N minus 1 divided by 2, Brandon?
See, now I actually had to look this up because I had no clue when we were kind of prepping for these questions. I actually had to look this up, right? So you got to know the formula. And I think that's the best way to, if you don't know the formula, you're probably not going to get this. So Kn minus 1, K minus 1, and then those ones, I finally figured out it was the two N's that got me was N, and then in brackets N minus 1 divided by 2. That's the one that I found online. I thought was the correct answer. So I'm going to go with D.
Correct, 100%. Now it's good to also know why, but that's basically, that is the equation employed to find the number of keys required by symmetric key algorithm. So you can dig into the math a little bit and why that's the case. But remember the two N's minus 1 divided by 2, and that's going to be your answer for that one. So we already dug into that in a previous episode. So if you watch any of the previous YouTube content, we'll dig deeper into that for you so you can really understand what's going on there. Cool. Let's keep going, guys. Also, if you guys are on Twitch. Keep throwing your answers in there, guys. Now is your time to practice. So let's jump in. Question 162. In which mode of DES will a block of plain text and a key always give you the same ciphertext? So same plain text and the key giving you the same ciphertext. Brandon?
So I'm going to say, I'm going to go backwards a little bit. I'm going to go with D, cipher feedback. I would say I don't think it's that, and I don't think it's output feedback. So I'm in between A and C. Counter mode. Counter mode is, yeah, I'm just trying to think. Counter mode. I'm going between A and C, and I'm going to guess at A, right? Electronic code book. That's what I'm gonna guess. Now you know encryption better than I do. Which, if you were going to just look at that question, not knowing the answer, which two would you pick?
Which two would I pick? Well, okay, so here's how I would look at it. Output feedback. You guys got to remember how encryption works, right? So you're going to take basically plain text. You're going to encrypt it to get your cipher, and then a lot of these are using like they use like a seed, right, in the next batch of encrypting to then re-encrypt it, right? So they'll use a cipher with a IV to then recirculate it, and that's what the feedback is. So it's not going to be this one because it's saying, okay, it's going to give me the same ciphertext for the same block of plain text. So it's not going to be your feedback, OFB. It's not going to be counter mode because what that does is it iterates. And then this is cipher feedback as well. So it has to be electric code book, and that is A. And I really wanted to pull up a picture of this for you guys so you guys can tell the difference. So let me go ahead and do that for you real quick. Let me see if I can find a quick picture to kind of show you what I'm. All right, let me see if this works. All right, yeah, that didn't work as I wanted to, but let's see if I could pull this up. Block cipher, that's not the picture I wanted either. Okay, here we go. So you can see here, electronic code book. Basically what it does is you have your plain text here, and I know is that too small for people to see, Brandon?
It's a little small, but yeah.
Well,
I think we get the gist of it.
There we go. So you can see on the left-hand side, you have plain text, you have your key, and you get the same ciphertext. Every single time you use that one block on the left, you will get the exact same ciphertext because you're using the same key, right? So that is the answer to ECB that I mentioned earlier. But if we talk about CBC or any of these other counter modes, what you're doing, and let me see if I can get a quick picture for you guys. There we go. And hopefully that's not too small. I'm trying to blow it up for you. But you can see what it does is it will then take an IV out of the block cipher encryption or the ciphertext to use that as an initialization vector for the next set of ciphertext. So you know that these feedback modes or the cipher block chaining modes will not be your answer if you're looking for the same output on that. Yeah?
Sounds good. Yeah,
cool.
Makes sense.
Awesome. Let's keep going, guys. We are getting closer to that gift card as we go. So here we go. Which of the following modes of DES is most likely to be used for database encryption? Brandon?
Which of the following is for database encryption? I thought you said which one is for hashing. Are we on 164?
You're on 163.
Okay, there we go. Which of the modes are DSS most likely to database encryption? Give me a second here.
Electronic code book. You have cipher block chaining, which we just showed you. Cipher feedback or output feedback.
So yeah, I'm looking at this again. So what you're saying about the cipher feedback and the output feedback, I would eliminate those. And then between the cipher block chaining, because we didn't see that in the last question, because that's mostly used for encrypting messaging. So again, I think it's electronic code book.
Yeah, and you're 100% right, because remember how you're encrypting a database, right? It's mostly in a block, right? So you're going to take it, you're going to use a key and encrypt the whole database. And if any updates are done, well, then you take a key and you then re-encrypt the whole database, right? You're not going to be doing these cipher feedback or output feedback loops. That's just not what you would do with the database. So way to work through that, Brandon. All right. This one is an easy one. We're going to give you an easy one, and then we're going to jump into the one we're giving away gift cards. So Brandon, really quick, which of the following is a hashing algorithm? SHA, RSA, Diffie-Hellman, or elliptic curve cryptography?
So I'm going to guess. I think it's SHA already, because I think RSA, Diffie-Hellman, and elliptic curve is asymmetric. So I think it's A.
Yeah, 100%. And it looks like everybody's getting that right. So great job, everybody. I appreciate you guys doing that. Please, you got to know this one, right? So this is one of those ones that if you're getting this one wrong, let's go back. Let's start fresh on some of these, the hashing algorithm, the encryption portion of this. And we got to know the difference between hashing algorithms and encryption. So it is key. There's a lot of questions on the exam for that. All right, Brandon, you ready? This one's for the gift card, guys. Are you guys ready? I'm looking for you guys here. Whoever gets this question correct gets a $25 gift card to Amazon or to Buffalo Wild Wings. The first one correct. So let's jump into it. It looks like you guys are ready. So let's jump in. Complete the following sentence. A digital signature is A, a hash value that's been encrypted with the sender's private key. B, a hash value that's been encrypted with the sender's public key. C, hash value that's been encrypted with the sender's session key. Or D, the sender's signature signed and scanned in digital format.
Let's give it a few seconds. Let's see if everyone starts to be able to answer and see if we have a winner yet before we start kind of going through this again.
We've got a winner already. So let's walk through these. And can we just get rid of D first? So sender's signature signed and scanned in digital format is not a digital signature.
Right.
You're not going to scan anything in your digital signature. That's not what it's talking about.
Right. And then now you're looking between A, B, and C, right? So hash values that have been encrypted with the sender's session key. No. Right.
No, don't use a session key. That's for no.
Right. So you're looking either public or private key, right? So those are the things that you're kind of doing that. So
100%.
Hash value that has been encrypted with the sender's public key, I would say no, because that's a generic key that goes out to everyone, right? So when you're looking at hashing and you're looking at what is it called, repudiation, when it has to confirm that that's that person, I would go with a hash value that has been encrypted with the sender's private key, because only he has it. He or she.
100%. So digital signatures are based on public key cryptography, also known as asymmetric cryptography. So when you're going through cryptography, if you have symmetric, remember symmetric is similar keys, right? So you'll have the same key for encrypting and decrypting. Asymmetric, on the other hand, you're going to have a private and public key. So really great job on that. And our winner for the day is Rando1872. Congratulations. We will get you that gift card shortly hereafter. If you will send Net Frazier your email address and name, I'll send that $25 gift card out. But first, and I'm sorry I yelled at you guys, but first, if you'll tell them if you want an Amazon or Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. So well done. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining us on the Cutting Into Cyber Incision live stream.
Good job. Now, we're going to get one poll out there. One question we had, Frazier and Joel and I were talking about, we'd love to know what certification you're working on right now. Being part of the CISSP study group, hopefully you're working in the CISSP, but you might be working on something else. Fill out the poll. Let us know which certification you're working on right now. We'd love to kind of see what most people are working on.
Absolutely. So Brandon, I'm going to pivot really quick. So while they're taking the poll, let's jump into this physical security stuff. And I want to say one thing first, right? That more physical security is not always better. And can we talk about why?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Let's do it. So this is an example of airport security before 9/11 and then airport security after 9/11. Okay. Can we all agree on this one? Because this is exactly what the TSA does, right? First of all, it's locked by a Cheeto. But then after 9/11, they basically put a ton of padlocks on. They're going to frisk your grandmas, take your water bottles, and let you have food. That's about it. But let me prove it. Can I prove it to you, Brandon?
Go ahead.
Okay. Because I feel like if somebody's uncle works for TSA, they may not be happy with me right now. So over the past few years, guys, they've actually done tests of trying to sneak through TSA with bombs. And their red team did it. And they said 17 out of 18 tries by their undercover federal agents saw explosive, fake weapons, and drugs pass through the TSA screening undetected. Yeah, that's like a 95% failure rate. So they said the only area where TSA is excelling is with consistency, it seems. And by consistency, I mean the fail rate they keep achieving. So guys, let's learn from TSA. More physical security isn't always better. It's about how it's implemented and how it impacts your business.
Exactly. So true.
Awesome, Brandon. So
now, Joel, here's something that I just been told by Frazier. It's now not a DM. It's called a whisper on Twitch.
What happened to the good old DM?
DM's out for it's the old technology. We're on Twitch now.
Sorry, we're evolving as a human race. Please whisper Net Frazier. Once again, Brando, if you'll get him his stuff. By the way, I wanted to address this. I'm not supposed to be looking at this chat, and I'm sorry, Frazier, and hopefully Neil's not watching. But guys, it looks like you guys are doing a bunch of stuff, like from CCNA, awesome, CEH, fantastic, Security Plus, going for the bachelor's in computer science. Ozzy, well done, buddy. Don't, whatever you guys are striving towards, hit it, celebrate it, and move on and keep improving.
Okay, so we have a little change here. Rando actually turned down the gift card. Sorry, we would love to give you an Amazon gift card, but the new winner is Daisy Dazed Low Kicks, I think it is.
Daisy Low Kicks?
Low Kicks, yeah, I get it.
So Daisy Low Kicks, if you'll whisper Net Frazier, we'll get you that gift card. But we're going to jump right back into the physical security stuff, because I promised Vivek today that I would get him the stuff that he missed when studying for the CISSP exam. So we'll get there. Give me just a minute and let's rock and roll. Brandon, talk to me about turnstiles real quick, and I'm going to pull this up.
Yeah, pull up the picture. So turnstiles, you guys are seeing mostly on, secure buildings. What happens is it prevents people from tailgating, or it has validations for identity, right? When you're going into a building, they want to confirm your identity, your access. You'll go in, you'll swipe, you'll get into this turnstile, and then what you'll do is you'll wait. Now, this is kind of the older one. I think Joel's bringing up as an older picture, right, of an older turnstile where it just can go one at a time. But there's newer turnstiles where it's actually you're in a box, right? You're in a glass box, and as you're going through authentication, right, you actually can swipe, you go in, they scan, they X-ray, whatever they may be, and then you go through, right? So that's what Joel's showing right now, and the main purpose of that is, again, making sure for authentication of the person's identity, also to make sure people can't tailgate.
Yeah, 100%. So those turnstiles, they go one direction, right? So you can either get in through them or out through them, but it's not going to go both ways. So typically what you have is like what you're looking at now are the man traps. You got to authenticate in, you'll be put in a box while your authentication is being verified. If it's verified, you're let in. If you're not verified, well, chances are a security guard or cop is on their way to then escort you to the cop car, right? So you'll have these man traps at an entrance, and then you'll have a turnstile, which lets only people go out the other direction. Cool. So you guys should be able to know what that is. We're not going to harp on this for too long. We're just going to keep rocking and rolling. So Brandon, next up real quick, we're going to jump into, I forget the name of these things every time. What are they? Boles?
Right. Yeah. So if you want to bring up the picture first.
I feel like I should ask everybody, because if
bring up the picture first, and what we'll do is we'll show it, and then you guys let us know what this is.
Okay. Fair. Let me go ahead and pull it up real quick, because let's do that. Talk to me about a bole, though.
So basically what happens, and when Joel brings this up, they're generally like these cement.
I said it wrong. It's a bollard. And these are bollards. And you guys have probably seen these before, but I read bollard in a book, and I'm like, what the heck is a bollard? Well, now you know, right? Mm-hmm. The cement blocks the metal barriers in the way. And it was funny because my wife was the one who's like, oh, I know exactly what that is. And she gave me an example. I'm like, no way, that's not what they're for. And she was spot on. So let me show you guys a picture of where you probably see it more often than anywhere else. Oh no, I don't have that picture readily available. Let me take a quick screenshot and share it with you guys.
You'll see it in front of stores, Walmart, things along that line. And what they're used for are normally preventions for any type of physical attack from a vehicle or anything like that they can't breach the front. Because what they're used to happen with stores is snatch and grabs. People would drive their cars through the doors, right? And they go run in, they grab stuff, they get thrown into the trunk, and they leave. So that's why these were set up. And there's secure areas, of course, you see in secure buildings too.
Yeah. So somebody said vehicle barricades. Somebody said there was Ballard. B-Sec said it's a Ballard. So that's how he pronounces them. I like Omega Man. He says they're used for parkour courses. This is Target. You see those big red balls, right? And then they also behind them, they have the bollards. So yeah, that's where I see them most often. But once again, if you're worried about smash and grabs in your type of business, very, very effective security tool. I've seen people run into them before, and they don't go much further, right?
Oh yeah, I've seen it too. I've seen people back into them.
Good stuff. Okay, cool. So now your perimeter is defended, right? But then it gets dark. What do you need,
Mm.
Brand?
Lighting.
You need lighting.
Line of sight lighting. You need to have the areas lit up that you can see, right? To see if anyone's walking around, to see if your areas are secure, especially if you have CCTV cameras, right? You want to make sure it's well lit, right?
100%. Or if it's not well lit, you want to have night vision CCTV cameras like the G4 Pro that Ubiquity's selling right now. I got 3 of them. They're amazing. You can literally see like all kinds of critters running through your yard at night. So anyways, check it out, Ubiquity. Big fanboy of Ubiquity. But what they say in the CISSP book is if your light has a certain diameter that it can light up, place the other one so that they overlap just a hair, right? So you can have a fully lit perimeter, because if you even have one go dark, guess where somebody's going to try to hop the fence?
Mm-hmm.
In that dark zone. So lighting is an important key to physical security. All right, I think you guys all get that, so we're not going to harp on that one either. Next up, guys, this is always fun because I actually got some videos for you guys, and let me share this with you and tell me if this is an effective form of security. Sorry. Did you see that? That thing is latched on mid-air and then yoinks him to the ground. So guard dogs are another form of physical security, right? Mm-hmm. There's a catch. And there was actually a gentleman who came on who said he had a trick question on his exam about dogs. So can anybody tell me, and I'm probably looking at you, Brandon, but can anybody tell me what having guard dogs on duty brings to your organization in a bad way?
Well, liability, right? If the dog attacks someone that it's not, bites a kid, something along that line, it gets set off or triggered, you know, the liability on that can be extremely high, right?
Yeah, 100%. And so I love BSEC. He goes, canines are 100% whoop-a. I agree. Like, they will wreck people. I've seen plenty of videos. If you need more, you know, dogs tearing stuff up, check out YouTube. Somebody else said, look, they can be manipulated, right? You throw a steak over with the sleeping pill in it, they're probably eating it, right? But once again, they're a deterrent. They're a preventative measure, but there's liability and there's lots and lots of maintenance, and there's allergies. So Dev Knowles, then, yeah, I agree. Yeah, the allergies will keep people away if nothing else. So good stuff. That is guard dogs. Next up, guys, we have internal security controls. And most of the stuff you'll see are like padlocks, right? I mean, that's kind of the cheapest form of security. But there's this type of attack that's called shimming. Have you ever heard of shimming before, Brandon?
I think so. Yeah. Do you have a video?
Yeah, I got a video. I hope that's cool with you guys, but I'd like to show you the video. This is how simple. So let's say you have a padlock. Now it's cool because this guy's got a clear padlock, but here's what a shimming attack is. He's basically got 2 little pieces of plastic in there. And let me see if I can shrink this screen so it kind of blows up for you guys. There we go. Check this out. Oh, that didn't work. Come on. I'm working on the sizing. There it is, right there. Perfect. Here we go.
What we've essentially done is just slid down both of these in between the cutout section of the shackle, disengaging the lock bar. I'll show you once more. And this is a very quick technique to bypass the lock. Very simple to do. And it'll work virtually on all kinds of padlocks. And that's it right there.
And that's it right there. Is that crazy, guys, or what? So, like, literally, I'm looking at this like, you've got to be kidding me. That's literally how easy it is to shim a lock. So, guys, once again, if you're looking at implementing these types of security controls, you got to know the risks around them. And sometimes there's no better way in doing so than hiring a red team or YouTubing how to bypass that security control, right?
Now you don't want to the funny thing is Freon.
Yeah.
You can spray the lock with Freon and just shatter it.
So let's say you've evolved. Padlocks, physical locks, they're no longer effective, right? You're using a wrench trick. You're using, you got a pick lock set. you could get past a padlock, right? Or use the shim that you guys just saw. Let's say you evolve into a keypad. Okay. You've taken this to the next level. Well, let's YouTube real quick what it takes to bypass a padlock. You ready?
You okay?
I got one for you. Here we go.
I ensured that anti-tamper switch stays depressed and no alarms go off. However, now that I have this out, I see there are no wires going to the anti-tamper switch. That means I can let go of this because there's no internal alarm. I can also now see how this is wired. It's in normally open mode. That means I can bridge some contacts to open the strike plate. I can also trigger the egress button. And I can also do what you saw me do with the Swiss Army knife, and that is touch the egress contact point and bridge it to the cover plate.
Oh, right. So with a screwdriver and a pocket knife, there's your keypad. So what do we do, Brandon?
You have a person.
You have a person. You implement different security controls.
Motion detectors. You got like you all different things, right? Sensors.
Right. So is physical security a priority for your organization? And if so, what are you going to do? So it looks like we got Wire Hacking Live says he's been a lockpicker since 1998. Guys, well, I hope I run across you at Black Hat or something. You know, once COVID opens up, we used to have just tables of locks at these hacker conferences, and you could just go sit down with a pick lock set and just practice on unpicking locks. It was a great time. You meet really cool people. So guys, if you see a table with a bunch of locks on it next time, once COVID is all past, go sit down, go pick a couple locks, or buy a kit online and practice at home. It's an awesome time. All right. So you said, what do we do if they're picking our locks? You jumped right into motion detectors, right?
Yeah, motion sensors, things along that line, right?
100%. So let's talk about the different kinds that you may run into and kind of how they work. So you have kind of this microwave sensor type, and I got a picture for you, I promise, because I'm telling you guys, I'm very picture oriented. You got to have them just so it sticks, right? But then I got a video for you of a guy I worked at in his Black Hat presentation. I'm just going to show you a snippet, but I'm going to show you how some of these security controls can be defeated in a really interesting way. So here we go. So that's a microwave sensor, right? So you have a sensor, and it's able to detect motion, and it's basically using basically microwaves to then, if it sees a reflection in the area it's detecting, it will then be able to detect that motion. Then you have PIR sensors and infrared sensors, and what that is doing is it's just absorbing the input. So look at the direction of the input, right? It's able to see heat signatures because it's an all a one-directional feed into that infrared sensor.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff?
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome, cool. So I've got one of the guys I work with, his name is Bill Swearingen, and he's probably one of my favorite people. He's awesome. He used to do a podcast with me a while back, but he did a presentation at Black Hat, and I highly recommend it. It's on YouTube. It's called Hack, or HAKC, because he's from Kansas City, Hack the Police at DEF CON 27. And what he did is he hacked the radar. So check this out real quick, guys. So if I don't recommend you do this at home, but
so what we're going to do, the demo that we're going to show is that I'm going to give our Mr. Police Officer here a radar gun. I am going to walk towards him, and I am going to return the same frequency that he is sending to me, which should indicate that I am standing still. Okay. Then I am going to slightly adjust the frequency sending, and I will stand still, and I will indicate that I'm moving. And I realize that I don't have any good way of demonstrating this to prove to you that this is happening. So you're just going to have to trust me that this wasn't all lies. Okay. Is that good there?
so what he's doing right now is he through these microwaves, right, or these waves that they use for radar, you know, those guns that they're aiming at you, if he sends the radio frequency at the same speed.
So I have two different versions of radar guns here. one just commonly off the shelf radar system, and a Hot Wheels one. It turns out the Hot Wheels one was a little bit easier to modify for my needs. Oh, and if there are any people from the FCC here, I've got, I want to tell you that it's all good. I stayed within the legal limits. Okay. Well. Okay, so the first demo is going to be you holding down the button, radaring me. I am going to return the same frequency to you, and hopefully, if all goes well, you will not get a reading. Here we go. Okay, you ready?
No reading, right? But he just
believe you.
He basically
Okay.
just hacked
Now on
the radar by sending the same frequency back at it, right? So that's actually a way to bypass that security control. Then what he does in this next one is he changes the frequency, and then it records him going at 111 miles an hour. So I guess I'm a hacker at heart, but I love seeing that stuff, right? Like learning how to bypass certain security controls and just understanding how it works. So once again, if you have certain waves going at the same speed towards each other, it makes it look like there's no movement, right? And then vice versa. That's just how it works. And then he also is doing an updated one for the laser detection. And check out that video, DEFCON 27, hack the police. So good stuff. Brandon?
Awesome. Yeah.
How we doing?
No, that's good. That's perfect. I mean, and we're just in the last point of physical security, environmental and life safety.
Awesome. So I think we're doing really good on time, right? Are you guys having fun yet? You guys having a good time? It looks like everybody's OSCP, CCNA, Sec Plus, CISSO. Oh, Sean, I'm excited. So I don't know if you guys know Sean Delane, but Sean is Sean D down here in the chat. Highly recommend you connect with him on LinkedIn. But he is going to be taking a CISSP soon, and then he's going to be taking his next goal is the CISSO certification. We're actually going to start training on that next after this. So we got a couple more months of CISSP content, and then we are pumped, absolutely excited to be helping train the next generation of CISSOs. All right, but what does a CISSO need? Brandon, what do they need to keep in mind first and foremost?
Environmental and life, safety of life.
Safety of life, guys. This is one of the things you need to remember as a CISSO, as somebody who's responsible for people within the organization, is the people need to be the number one asset that you protect. So let's talk about OEP. You may have heard of a business continuity plan. You may have heard of a business recovery plan or a BCP, right? A business continuity, business recovery plan, BRP. You may have heard of an incident response plan or an IRP, right? What about an OEP, an occupant emergency plan, right? So this is one of those ones that if this acronym came across to you in a CISSP question, would you be able to recognize OEP?
Yeah, now I would. I mean, yeah, since studying that, but before, no, it wasn't a common thing that we talked about, right?
Right. So you'll want to remember that an occupant emergency plan, it's a physical security plan. Where do you go in case of fire? Where do you go in case of tornado? Where do you go in case of hurricane or water, right? And it's part of your business continuity plan. So that is your OEP. And remember, that's your occupant emergency plan.
So,
Now,
but remember, it's part of two plans. Business continuity plan and your disaster recovery plan.
Or is it your incident response?
So from what I'm reading, right? So the business continuity plan and the disaster recovery address IT and business continuity and recovering issues all in court, and it should tie into those.
Yeah, 100%. And it definitely does, right? It's part of that, and it needs to be at the forefront, and it needs to be tested. All right, guys, how do you guys feel? Physical security, that's a wrap. How do you feel, Brandon?
Good. I mean, I think we covered a lot. I think hopefully you guys got a base. Something we didn't say before, but if you guys have any questions, let us know, right? As we're going through this, right? Ask the questions. We got, Fraser monitoring the chat right now. If you guys have any specific questions for us, let us know. Because I know, Joel, you're going to jump into what you didn't study or what wasn't covered in our study group when you went for the CISSP.
Yeah. So remember, guys, I did sign an NDA when I went to take the CISSP certification, which means I can't disclose any of the questions that I had on the exam. And I fully intend to abide by that NDA. But what I can do is I can cover the content that would cover any and all questions you will get on the topic. Fair? Vivek, Sean, anybody coming up with a CISSP or a Security Plus certification here in the near future, this is for you. So
hold on. Let's be clear here. Remember, there's a depth of questions there in the database. This is what Joel came across. It doesn't mean that because you study this, now you're prepared. You got to know all the information going in. This is what Joel came across. I just want to be clear that as you're studying, preparing for that, you're going, okay, so Joel told me this was on the exam and now I can go do it. And Joel, you come back and go, Joel, none of this was on the exam.
Yeah. So guys, the CISSP bank is huge, right? There are tons of questions. You never know which ones you're going to get. But my promise to you is that if you get a question on these topics, you will not be able to forget them after tonight. Fair?
Perfect.
Cool. So let's jump in, because here's the reality is I got more than one question on each of these topics throughout the exam. And I'm talking like 2, 3, and even I think 4 on one of them. So let's jump right in. And the very first is SOC certifications. Now, Brandon, when you hear the word SOC certification, what does it make you think of?
Well, first, what I know, like working at a MSSP, you kind of think of a security operations center, right? But that's not what they're talking about. It's
not at all. So let's walk through the SOC reports. So it's very deceptive, right? You think SOC and you're like, oh, they're talking about a security operations center. It's all based on security. Like, what are my people doing? What controls do I have in place? They must go, right? So the CISSP is notorious for using which one is the best or which one is most relevant to, right? And they're going to try to trick you on this. So the SOC reports and the SOC evaluations to get SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 certified, they handle very different things, none of which apply to your security operations center.
Well, it's a compliance.
It's a compliance. Now, part of it's security operations center-ish in regards to your GRC program, but let's walk through it. So if you want to get SOC 1 certified, it is going to audit your financial services or the controls relevant to users who are doing financial reporting. So if the question comes through and it's asking you which one is most relevant or least relevant or related to financial reporting, SOC 1 certified. Okay. Brandon, SOC 2 certification is around GRC programs, so policy procedure. It's around oversight, and some of that has to do with logging of CCTV cameras. How long are you logging other things? What is the oversight you have over your organization? And then the next is the due diligence that you've done. Now, this does regard security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. So that's SOC 2. So it looks like we got Sean, and he's in a co-location center, and he needs to request a SOC 2 Type 2 report from the vendor, right? And that is directly related to GRC, oversight, due diligence, and it applies to the management, right? And then SOC 3, Brandon, will you walk me through that real quick?
Yeah, so any user with needs for confidential and service organization controls, and then why? Marketing purposes and detailed, not needed. Then what is it? It's easy to read report on controls.
Yep, 100%. Shared under NDA, publicly available, right? So that data, SOC 3 is the security, availability, processing integrity for data that's publicly available to anyone. So really good stuff. Guys, it's important that you guys remember that, especially if you're going for certifications or even just in your day-to-day life. You need to know that SOC 1 certification has nothing to do with a company's security posture. Just the reality. It's silly. They should probably have to rename their certification, but that's above my pay grade.
But remember, and here's another thing to go back through is when you're reading the question, make sure to see what they're defining, right? Is it actually a security operations center? Is the questions related to incident response, log monitoring, things like that? Or is it talking about financial things like that? And that should trigger you to kind of go, they're talking about SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, not a SOC, right? A security operations center. So just some keys to help you as sometimes these are tricky questions, right?
100%. Now I just got told to hydrate from Net Fraser, so I'm back. I get passionate about this stuff. I forget to eat and drink sometimes. So anyways, let's jump in, guys. Next one. So hopefully you guys are ready. But first, I want to address a couple questions, if that's fair. That cool, Brandon?
Yeah, let's do it.
Looks like Vorvo DOS 69 says, has physical security and cybersecurity businesses a common thing where you are at? I've been job hunting and was interested in physical security, but there's no growth for cybersecurity. So let's pause real quick. So do you remember that TSA article that I shared with you?
Mhm.
It said their red team tried to sneak through things. What does that mean to you, Brandon?
They were pen testing.
They were pen testing. They were pen testing the physical security controls. So while you may think, hey, there's no growth into cybersecurity and physical security, that's not true. Your CISO deals with security. Your red team deals with physical security. Your blue team deals with physical security. Your internal monitoring leader has to deal with physical security and emergency response plans and your OEP plan, right? Like, you may not think it applies to cybersecurity, but man, after going through the CISSP chapter and all the content we just did, it is built into cybersecurity, right? Why do we secure things in cyberspace? Well, you first have to secure it physically before you can secure it in cyberspace. Because if somebody can walk in and steal it, well, there's not a whole lot of cyber left to secure, right?
Also, you got to look at this. A lot of times the physical, like you're talking about sonar and you're talking about infrared and all that, those are all connected to the network, right? A lot of them are connected to some sort of monitoring device, some sort of monitoring control center, which has internet access and might be isolated only to the internal environment, but still has access. So you're crossing over technology. If you look way back in the day when it was, dogs, guards, locks, keys, things along that two-way radios, things along that line, there wasn't as much technology. We've evolved now. It's more and more integrated with the technology of the systems, the networks, the servers, and data storage when you're looking at logs and all that. So all that's now starting to integrate where, when you start to get into corporations, when you're looking at physical security, IT is involved, cybersecurity is involved. It's all intertwined.
Yeah, 100%. So we got a couple more questions. Let's rock through these because I got 15 more minutes to deliver my promise to Vivek and cover a bunch more content. So real quick, Real Trillman said, would a master's degree in cybersecurity that costs less than 20 grand, less than 20 grand total be worth it? And Real Trillman, I would say, what's your goal? If your goal is to get into management, 100%. Right? I just had to do a bunch of panel interviews for a new VP. And if you have a master's degree, it puts you a step above your competition. So if there is a tie, right? And we had a 3-way tie, well, what are the other things you're looking into to make your decision? So I think I personally have a master's degree, cost me less than 20 grand, and it's going to help be that differentiator for me someday. But I also plan on never tying somebody else for a role, right? I want to go way above and beyond them. All right, next one is, my question is, how do you find a sponsor? And I'm thinking BSEC is referring to the CISSP. And how do you prove how long you've been doing security? I think that's my biggest hangup, is I'm the only person in my corp that deals with the security side of things. And BSEC, that's a great question. And, I think this cyber insecurity community is one of those ways to do that, right? Because we could look through, you have Sean Delane, you have myself, you have Vivek. We've been talking for a while. We're getting to know each other. You would have to probably walk somebody through if you're just meeting them, but talk to them about what your job role, your responsibilities have been, right? Find a CISSP, have a friend, a community who can vouch for you. So if you guys haven't joined the Discord channel for cyber insecurity, Net Fraser's going to drop this in the chat. This is the Discord. Jump into this community. I know BSEC, you're already there. But let's chat someday. Let's talk about where you've come from, what your experiences have been, how long you've been doing security and what types of security, right? And we'll go from there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about networking.
Yeah. And then it's your boy Uktena said, how exactly does physical security plan for power outages, either intentionally cut or power due to loss to weather and accidents? Brandon, you want to take that one?
UPS.
Well,
and generators, like there's all different things that they'll start to plan for, but then you got hot sites, cold sites, warm sites, like all those different ones. So when you're looking at the different plans, that's in their disaster recovery. So hopefully in the buildings, like you're looking at the buildings, they have generators, right? They'll kick in. Now, if there's water damage or weather, then they look at the different things. They have maybe even, other generators. They have, diesel generators, or if they have another site off-site that's even maybe in a different location, a different city, right, that will spin up just because say you're in one state and then they'll spin up in another state because that state now is being hit by a storm. And I know I think you might be bringing up Texas, what Vivek was going through.
Yeah, so Vivek, I don't know if you guys know this, but Vivek actually went through that in Austin, Texas. You guys saw what happened a couple weeks ago. huge dip in weather conditions, right? Got freezing cold, froze up all kinds of windmills, power sources, and power and water supply was down and out throughout a good part of the state. That should be part of your emergency response plan. Does your business continuity plan address that, right? If that's a need, if power outages, if your business, and most businesses, when you lose power, you immediately lose productivity because nobody's on the internet, right? So if your business needs access to resources when the power's out, how are you addressing that in your business continuity plan? Based on the amount of risk you have and the amount of budget you have to either accept or spend more money sometimes to get a warm site or a hot site that you can move to quickly in a different region.
Awesome. So Joel, I'm going to keep you on track here.
Okay.
We'll leave that. We'll answer, guys. Keep the questions coming. We'll answer at the end. Joel, I'm going to get you to kind of go through the next section, which I think is ABAC and what was included.
Yeah. So I'm really pumped for this part because I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I got to my exam and this question popped up and I was like, excuse me, what? ABAC. What is ABAC? I know what RBAC is. I know what DAC is. I know what MAC is. But what the heck is ABAC? And I spent probably 10 minutes just racking my head, guys. What is ABAC? What is ABAC? Like, I literally couldn't even figure out the acronym. So I had to guess on one. And then by the second time, I had kind of figured it out based on the wording on the question. So let's walk through this. What is ABAC? And Sean Delane's way ahead of me. He already said attribute. So well done. I missed it. We also went over this earlier in the content, and Brandon, we totally missed it.
Totally missed what?
ABAC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even cover it. So DAC, discretionary access control. That means Sean Delane has the rights and ability to then discretionarily, if that's a word, give you permissions for certain files, accesses, etc. MAC is mandatory access control. This is the classification of users and data: top secret, secret, classified, unclassified, etc. RBAC, role-based access control. And how do we classify people there, Brandon?
Role-based, yeah, it's by the individual role of the organization, right? If they're bank tellers, if they're managers, whatever that may be, right? They're going to get that classification or that access.
100%. So ABAC is attributes. Attribute-based access control. So what the heck does that mean, though, Brandon? Like, what does that cover? Do you know?
From what I'm reading right there, it's going to assign attributes to the actual group. You know, if you're looking at Active Directory, right? It's probably going to assign attributes to the group, right? And then you're going to assign users to that group. That's what I would assume.
Similar, right? So let's talk about RBAC, because RBAC is very much, hey, let me see if I can zoom into this for you guys. Does that help at all? A little bit. Well, let's talk through this. So your admin assigns users an appropriate role. They're assigned the roles. The roles define the authority level they have over certain settings, files, permissions, and then the permissions are authorized for the specific roles or groups they're in. That's role-based access control. ABAC, on the other side, is like this. And I thought this was really cool. And now that I've seen it here, I'll never forget it, right? And neither will you. But let's talk about the different things that impact this type of security control. Let me see if I can kind of zoom into this real quick. Aha, I got it. Okay. How do I get that? There we go. So hopefully you guys can see this a little bit, but you can see that the creation date is an attribute. The resource owner is an attribute, but you can see down here the subject, user, or service attributes. What's its name? What's its role, right? So role-based is a piece of the attribute-based access control. Then you have security classification. So you have DAC built into that. But if you come over here, then you have other attributes such as access time, the data location, the threat levels, right? So, okay, now we're talking about users with a certain role in a certain group with a certain classification who are in the same part of the world, right? And those are attribute-based access controls. And that's why it's important to know this, because like I said, I got 2, 3, maybe even 4 questions on some of these. Will you? I have no idea, but I want you to be prepared just in case.
Perfect.
All right. How do you feel on that? If you got those questions today, how are you feeling?
Yeah, now I knew the DAC, the MAC, the RBAC, understood that. But yeah, I didn't. Well, I'd have to go back to ABAC and go through that. But yeah, now it helps.
Yeah. And I just think it's important, especially for people like Vivek who are taking this here near real time. You got to know this stuff, but it also helps. Like I've never even heard it described that way, and Sean Delane has, so maybe he studied better. But he said the time of day is one of those attributes, right? So if you want people only to access resources during business hours, geolocation, etc.
Right.
All right. Next up, Brandon, what do we got?
Best software development types for web applications.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so guys, this is actually one of our upcoming modules, but I wanted to give a little sneak peek into it because there are a few pieces that you have to know. And it's kind of foundational stuff, but it was really good just to kind of review it, and I want to review it with you guys. So let's talk about the software development life cycles. Now, as you guys know in exams, they're going to mix these up. They're going to twist them around. They're going to replace one thing with the wrong thing and try to confuzzle the nonsense out of you. So the 5 phases of software development. Let's walk through this and let's logically think why that's the case. Well, you got to gather requirements, right? Mm-hmm. The what, the why, the how. You got to design it. That's your how. Sorry, not the how. Yep. Okay. Then you develop it,
right?
Test and validate, and then you release and maintain. Release and maintain is at the end, right? There's not a testing after release and maintain. Testing does not come iteratively. You don't test, design, test. That's not the software development lifecycle. Some people do it, but that's not the SDLC. So gather your requirements, design it, develop it, test and validate, release and maintain. All right, Brandon, pop quiz. What are the 5 phases?
Well, I would call it scoping, but yeah, it's requirement and gathering, right? Then you have to develop it and design it out, right? You design it out. I don't want to confuse it, but you design it, right? And then what happens is then you code it, right? So that's developing, right? And then you have to test and validate that the code actually works and there's no errors. And then you go, and last is you release it out to the wild, right? And then you maintain it for your software for your clients.
Yeah. Well done.
So now I'm going to help you guys remember this, right? I'm going to give you guys just one. Make it exaggerate, over exaggerate. You're going to requirements. You're going to gather as much information from the hardest clients you're going to get. And it's going to be as much information because it's going to be a big, long project, right? Think of it that way because you don't forget that. You're like, oh my God, that's the worst thing of gathering. Design. You're going to spend hours drawing this out, designing it. How is it going to work? Architecture, design, coding, everything like that. You're never going to forget design. Then you're going to sit there for hours with Red Bulls and coffee, coding this out. Right? And you're going to develop it all out. Now you're going to test it and it's going to break. You're going to get error codes. It's going to be so frustrating. Right? And then you're going to validate it finally works. No error codes, no errors, no messages. And then you're going to go release it to the wild because you're like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to deal with this. And then they're going to call you back and say, oh, by the way, I need some support. So you can get maintenance.
Well,
so
and if you
think
did
of that,
your job well, if you did your job well, they'll keep you on retainer and they'll keep paying you, and there will be very little maintenance to do.
Hopefully, knock on wood, right? No patch management, nothing like that. But think of it over exaggerate because when you come up and someone says, "What's the software development lifecycle?" You go, "Oh my God, Brandon Joel told me this one," and that's what it is, and you won't forget because it's just so exaggerated.
That's it. Now, I did look over at chat again, and I feel like I keep looking over at chat at the right times. Like at the beginning of our episode, BSEC goes, "Hey, this is becoming one of my favorite cybersecurity streams." I'm like, yeah. And then right now, All Tiger said, "Hey, you guys sound like a melody," which I think means we like vibe well. I'm going to take it that way anyways. And he said, you have quite a bit of expertise. So thank you, All Tiger. But yeah, so software development lifecycle, but we got to jump one step further. Is that okay, Brandon?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's talk about, because there's a lot of different types of software development and there's a lot of approaches. And they're going to test you. I'm going to repeat. They're going to test you on some of this, right? So if you talk about Scrum, where does that fit in, Brandon?
Oh, in this the approach of Scrum.
Look at the last one.
I'm looking at it. Right, I'm kind of looking at this. So you're like agile practices.
Boom. So if you're going to hear Scrum, right, or if you hear lean software development or extreme programming, those are all agile practices. Right. But if you have plan driven or very formal, well, guess what? Waterfall model is very a rigid, formal process. So is clean room. Iterative approaches are like spiral, right? Spiral, rapid application development, or joint application development. Those are iterative approaches. Then you have agile approaches, right? So you have agile approaches and you can see practices and mindset. So if you have 3 sections on here that says agile, what do you think they're going to test the most on CISSP?
Agile, of course, right? Now, let me ask you this. Why is this important? Why is it important to know your software development approaches?
Well, because you need to know what kind will work best on what type of project you're trying to implement, right? There are different considerations to take into effect. Is speed necessary? Is it security? What type of development environment? Do you have a client you're working with, right? Do you need to get that feedback on a regular basis? What is it? And that's why it's important to know these different approaches.
Right. Perfect. Now we had one question on the software development lifecycle was, where does security fall into the 5 phases?
You want to know what the real answer is?
What's the real answer?
In every phase. You're supposed to build security into every phase of the software development lifecycle. So real quick, I'm going to stop screen sharing, but first I want to say agile approach is iterative and incremental. It's value-oriented, people-centric, and risk-aware, right? So in the software development lifecycle, though, let's jump back over to that real quick. Wasn't quite prepared for this, but I dropped out of that question. Oh, come on, work for me. All right, it's giving me a hiccup. But Brandon, walk me through the 5 phases again.
You got your requirement gathering, scoping, right? You got your design.
What type of requirements for security should you gather there?
Why, what, and whom, right? And you're going to look at, what's the requirements, compliance, anything along that line. Are they writing from a code? Is it PCI compliant? What is really kind of going on, right?
100%.
So you kind of look at all those questions, right? And make sure you dive deep. This is one where you're now an investigator. Don't let the client drive the actual requirements. You drive them as a security professional. Someone's coding, you drive them. Do you need this? Do you need that? Here's what we have. Like, you drive those requirements and make sure that you cover all bases, because they're going to go, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, since you've coded and developed, I need this.
100%. 100%. You explained it so well, man. I appreciate you. What's phase 2? Design. So when you're designing it, you need to use the information and the security details that you've gathered in information gathering to then design an application that is to your security standard. Next.
Right, now you develop it out. Now, so what happens, you design the framework. Let's be honest here. You're not actually coding at this point. You're designing the framework and you're kind of looking at how it's going to all play out. This actually could be just a presentation of the flow chart of how this is all going to work out. Right? Before you start, what are you using right now?
Excel spreadsheet.
There you go, right?
For our new UI, I have mapped out all of the role-based access controls required. I've mapped out the different personas with our UI, UX, and our project managers. And then we walked through the tool that we have currently and the new features we want to implement and what personas need access to what permissions, right? So we're building the security in before we've even started developing. That's information gathering. That's the design phase. And then when you develop it, you're putting that into practice. Then what
are you doing when you're developing? What's the practice you're using? OWASP,
as using different risk management frameworks, right? And security best practices, 100%.
Right. To code against, to make sure that you're meeting the requirements as you're coding. You're just not going free will and just go that you're actually using a framework to code against to make sure you're hitting all your check marks.
Yeah. And I think these guys are fantastic. We got Sean saying one thing for certain is that the customer will never fully understand what they want and the requirements will always change. Oh, thank goodness you said that, because you saved me the trouble. And then BSEC said you can't build and then go, oh, let's do security now that we've implemented it. We're live. You have to start with security in mind from the beginning, right? If you're starting with the end in mind, you got to build security in all the way.
Okay. So that's you guys talking about security. Clients, on the other hand, what's the 3, letters, Joe? C, I.
A.
What do clients normally think about?
One of the 3.
They only think about availability and the integrity of the software as it's going out to it, so it works and functions. Confidentiality is sometimes not thought about or last on their list, right? Unless you have someone that's driving the project that's security focused. But a lot of times when you're getting these coding, security is, something that hinders the project. So
Well,
as you come in as a security professional, just so you know, this is what you're dealing with.
Well, and heads up, Net Frazier said cost, time, ROI. That's really what's on their forefront, right?
Right.
What's the cost? How much time is it going to take? What's my return on investment? Is security in there?
No,
not really, right? So like,
unless they can associate somewhere in there that, the downtime.
Yep. There you go. So remember, I love what Sean said. ROI, always ROI. Thank you, BSEC. But also remember, the customer, if you only take their requirements, it'll keep changing on you and you'll never reach them. So cool. I do have to share one more picture real quick before we move on from software development. And this was not comprehensive software development lifecycle. This was just a quick crash course for you. But I did want to throw this up. Agile software development benefits businesses. And I highlighted a little section. I'm not going to ask any questions around this. I'm just going to read it. Fair?
Fair.
Okay. Agile software development is the method of developing high quality software solutions, web applications, and mobile applications. So Brandon, what development method would you use for high quality software solution, web applications, and mobile applications?
You're using Agile, right?
Are you sure?
Yep.
What kind?
Agile.
Okay. So those of you taking the test, Vivek, I hope you're paying very close attention. Agile software development is used for those, for developing those things, right? And here are the benefits they'll get: faster development and time to market, high quality products, enhanced product management, reduction of risks because they are implementing security throughout the process and it's risk aware, and increased customer experience and satisfaction. Sometimes though, as in all development practices, security is often an afterthought. So yeah. And so it is an efficient way to deliver nice software as opposed to traditional waterfall methodologies. However, right, many organizations fail to integrate security controls into the SDLC. Good stuff?
Good stuff.
Hold on, Brandon. If I'm developing one of those things, what kind of method do I use?
You're going to use Agile, right? But think about this. And guys, remember, like when you think of it and try to get wrapped around your head, you look at web applications and mobile applications, they're Agile in movement. They're Agile getting out there, right? They move around. So if you can kind of think of that and relate it and tie it together, if I'm going to be build a mobile app, I want to be able to be flexible. I want it to be able to be Agile. What method I'm going to use? Agile.
Yeah. There you go. Yep. And so there are, you may run across something waterfall, but once again, I mean, you saw the picture, right? There were 3 blocks for Agile and everything else was crunched into 2. So all right, guys, we're running out of time here. I hope you guys are having a great time. I know this is CISSP content, but we want to bring it, keep you excited, keep you engaged. You'll learn something new, I promise, every single time you get in here. Let's talk on our last subject of the day, and that is SAML. Have you heard of SAML before, Brandon?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
SAML is the security assertion markup language. And this is one of the ones that if you say SAML, I know exactly what you're talking about. But if you randomly take a test and you say security assertion markup language, I'm like,
what?
But just if it would have been SAML, and I would have been golden, right? But you say something like, what's an XLM-based framework for security information? Like, okay, now this is thought-provoking, right? Now you're digging into what things are occurring, what it contains security information, and it's XML. That had nothing to do with the question I got, but guys, I could see this being a question on the exam, and you got to know SAML. You got to dig deep, and that's what we're going to do here right now. So what is SAML? Well, it includes authentication data. It enables SSO, or single sign-on, at internet scale. So real quick, let's jump in and let's see what this looks like from probably something you're very familiar with, right?
Mm-hmm. Like a mobile phone?
Your mobile phone. So you have a lock screen. You enter your credential or your facial recognition now, right? Which most people do. But first, you're going to be over here on number 1. So start on the right-hand side. You're not entering your fingerprint first. It may feel that way, but the first thing you do is you request access to that resource, right? The service provider will then go to unauthenticated request and redirect the SAML LDP with the SAML request. That will then display a login page to you. And that's the first thing you really see, right? Is that login page. Everything else is happening in the background. Your credentials are then sent for validation. sends your verification status, and then the SAML identity provider will send a SAML response to your service provider, who will then gives you access or deny access.
Mhm.
So that is the security assertion markup language. What kind of data does it contain, Brandon?
PII, well, private information, right? So security. So normally it would be like, for that one, it'd be PKI, wouldn't it?
So it is going to contain identity and authentication information.
Mhm.
That would be the direction I would go, right? Because you have to remember, the security assertion markup language is providing single sign-on across the web. And it says federation. That's kind of a trick question, because Active Directory federated services are very different, and you're going to want to know that too, right? So security assertion markup language, this is a little more detailed, but let's go through it real quick. Here are your different identity provider protocols, right? Or the protocols that manage the communications. You have SAML, OAuth, OpenID. You could use multiple mechanisms, or you could use different underlying protocols, right? So those are the different ones: XML, HTTP, SOAP, JSON. What does security assertion markup language use, Brandon? Out of those?
What do you mean? What do they use?
Does it use XML, HTTP, SOAP, JSON, or XRDS?
XML.
100%. And what it does is the client or principal will initiate a sign-on to the service provider site. The service provider will redirect them, validate, and the principal is signed in with the token. How'd we do?
Well, it's good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I figure I don't normally repeat stuff a lot, and I actually it kind of bugs me when it repeats it a lot in the content, but it repeated a lot on the exam. So I figured I'd bring it home and really drill home those core concepts.
Well, one of the key things too is if you see something that's more repetitive, it's going to help you learn it, retain it, and you're probably going to know if it's being repeated, that it's probably important to know.
Yeah, and I love what BSEC said. Let's hope there's some multi-factor authentication with that. 100%, right? Man, MFA would stop so many incidents. You would not even believe it, Brandon.
Yeah, don't doubt it, right? I mean, we're looking at all the different types of MFAs now coming out, right? True passwordless decentralized authentication is now the new model, right?
100%. So with that, Brandon, will you close us out today with your final thoughts?
You know what? I think right now, when you're looking at your certification, doesn't matter which ones you're doing. Hopefully you're doing the CISSP, but I know right now there's a good chunk of people that are doing their Security Plus. Mm-hmm. What I would say right now is study. If you're here, this stuff is going to be studied, like you covered over in your Security Plus, right? A lot of this information is going to be covered and more, like more than what you're going to even get on your Security Plus. Make sure what you do is you take this information that we're talking about today, you're studying it, and then you're applying to your day-to-day. The more you can apply it using your day-to-day life, the more you're going to retain this, the more you're going to remember it, and the more value you're going to have to your organizations, your growth in the industry.
100%. Brandon, you rock. Thank you so much for being my co-host. I want to give a big shout out to everybody here on Twitch, not only for supporting us here at the Cutting Into Cybersecurity live stream, but for supporting the Cyber and Security Twitch stream in general. Guys, I look forward to meeting you on LinkedIn, in the Discord. Reach out to Brandon and myself on social media. If you guys have any questions, guys, honestly, we're here. And during the day, talking to you is such a needed break, right? I'd love to have LinkedIn messages come in with questions saying, hey, thank you. What about this? Like, it's like a breath of fresh air throughout my day while I'm grinding out RBAC controls.
There you go.
And ABAC controls, right? So guys, thank you so much. This has been an honor and a privilege doing this live stream for you. I now have to go jump in and do a pop quiz for Vivek. Guys, this is the Cyber Incision live stream, signing off.